Somebody has to help this country, and if they don't, the country and the world are in big trouble.
From real estate to reality TV, from prosecutions to presidency. Say what you want about the Trump family, but boring? Never. Whether you see them as the embodiment of the American dream or a cautionary tale of wealth and power gone wild, the Trumps have never stayed out of the spotlight. Their family history is filled with bold moves, shady turns, business coups, lawsuits, luxury, political chaos, and enough drama to make a Netflix producer foam at the mouth. They've shaped skylines, sparked lawsuits, won elections, and been impeached twice. Their story touches every corner of American life: immigration, real estate, media, politics, and power. From the barbershops of 19th century Manhattan to the Oval Office and back again, the Trumps didn't just build towers, they built a dynasty. So how exactly did we get from a 16-year-old German immigrant to a two-time US president? Let's break it down. It all started in Germany. Kinda. The Trump story begins in the winemaking village of Karlstadt, Germany. That's where Friedrich Trump, born in 1869 and originally carrying the surname Drumpf, grew up across the street from the woman who would later become his wife, Elizabeth Christ. At just 16, Friedrich made a life-altering decision. He left Germany to avoid mandatory military service, hoping for better opportunities in the United States. That choice would get him banned from re-entering Germany years later, but in true Trump fashion, he didn't just adapt, he capitalized. Arriving in New York City in 1885, Friedrich lived with relatives in the growing German neighborhood of Morrisania in the Bronx. He worked as a barber and saved every penny he could. Soon after, he opened his own barber shop, located at 60 Wall Street, the future site of Deutsche Bank's US headquarters. But cutting hair wasn't his endgame. Opportunity knocked during the Klondike Gold Rush, and Friedrich answered. He ventured west, not to dig for gold, but to serve those who did. He opened restaurants and boarding houses in boom towns like Seattle, Monte Cristo, and eventually Bennett City in British Columbia. These establishments weren't just diners. They were known for gambling, alcohol, and rooms for ladies, making Friedrich a savvy, if morally ambiguous, early entrepreneur. One signature dish? Horsemeat steaks, reportedly served with enthusiasm. As the boomtowns shifted, so did Friedrich. When the railroad redirected traffic from Bennett to Whitehorse, he put his entire hotel on a raft and floated it downriver, literally moving his business with the flow of money. By 1902, Friedrich had amassed a small fortune. He returned to Karlstadt, married Elizabeth, and tried to resettle in Germany. But his draft-dodging past caught up with him. The German government denied his request to stay. So the couple returned to New York, once again setting roots in the Bronx. They moved into an apartment above Friedrich's sister's home and began growing their family. Their second child, Friedrich Chris Trump, Donald's father, was born in 1905. Friedrich took jobs wherever he could and eventually bought his first real estate investment, a two-story home in Queens. But tragedy struck in 1918 when Friedrich died from the Spanish flu pandemic at the age of 49. And here's where history gets interesting. Friedrich's widow, Elizabeth, refused to let the family's momentum die with him. At just 37 years old, she took over the small real estate portfolio and started expanding it, buying property, arranging mortgages, and even selling household goods door to door. She rebranded the business as Elizabeth Trump and Son, grooming her teenage son Fred to eventually take over. In a time when few women held financial power, Elizabeth Trump quietly became the matriarch of what would one day become a global empire. Elizabeth's son, Fred Christ Trump, officially took over the family business in the 1920s. Still a teenager at the time, he had already been working construction sites under his mother's name, Elizabeth Trump and Son. His first project? Building garages for neighbors during the Great Depression. From there, he graduated to small homes, and then entire developments across Queens and Brooklyn. Fred was a ruthless pragmatist, known for running a tight ship and watching every penny. He insisted that workers recover and reuse bent nails and even repainted used wood to stretch a budget. His efficiency earned him accolades and massive federal contracts. After World War II, he capitalized on housing demand for returning veterans and their families, building thousands of homes using Federal Housing Administration loans. These weren't luxury high-rises. They were cookie-cutter brick row homes for middle-class white families. But they made him rich. By the 1950s, Fred Trump was considered one of New York's most prolific home builders and earned the nickname the Henry Ford of housing. His company, headquartered in Brooklyn, was praised for its scale, but also targeted by regulators. In 1954, he was investigated by the Senate Banking Committee for overcharging the government on housing projects. In one infamous instance, he billed taxpayers nearly $4 million for a complex of properties and was later forced to return funds. Still, no charges stuck. Fred's reputation in real estate grew, but so did whispers about discrimination. In 1973, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a federal lawsuit against Fred and Donald Trump for racial bias in housing practices, allegedly marking black applicants with a C for colored on rental applications. The case ended in a settlement, with no formal admission of guilt but clear government monitoring going forward. Beyond business, Fred shaped his sons, especially Donald, with the same cutthroat instincts he used in development. He preached dominance, not empathy, success, not humility.
The happiest people tend to be the people that are making a nice income, that really enjoy their life and their family life, and not the people of tremendous wealth that are constantly driven to achieve more and more success.
To Fred, life was a competition. Winners were celebrated, losers ignored or discarded. Donald once said of his father, he would say, "You are a killer, you are a king." Fred initially hoped his eldest son, Fred Jr., would take over the business. But when Fred Jr. chose to become a commercial airline pilot instead, and later struggled with alcoholism, Fred Sr. shifted his attention to Donald. He saw in his middle son a fighter, someone aggressive enough to carry the family name into the high-stakes world of Manhattan. By the 1970s, Fred had largely handed the reins to Donald, confident that his empire was in the hands of a killer. It would be the last time the Trump family would operate in the shadows. The next chapter would take their name to the top of skyscrapers, and eventually, ballots. Born in 1946, Donald John Trump was the fourth of 5 children. Known for being wild and headstrong, he was sent to military school as a teenager. There, he learned to respect hierarchy, but also how to dominate it. After graduating from Wharton, Donald joined the family business, but he had Manhattan dreams, not Queens. His first major deal, the Commodore Hotel, which he turned into the Grand Hyatt. Using political connections and a bit of creative deal-making, he secured massive tax breaks and built a reputation as a savvy operator who could sell anything, even when he didn't fully own it yet. In the 1980s, Trump became a brand. Trump Tower went up on Fifth Avenue. Casinos, airlines, and vodka followed. He became a tabloid staple, flaunting gold-plated everything, beauty queens, and over-the-top confidence. But beneath the flash, his empire was often over-leveraged. The Atlantic City casinos went bankrupt multiple times. Contractors went unpaid. Loans got called in. Still, the Trump brand survived, and then thrived thanks to reality TV. When he started firing contestants on his hit TV show, The Apprentice, in 2004, Trump became more than a businessman. He became the ultimate boss. The show rebranded him as a tough, no-nonsense CEO, even as his real-life businesses were tangled in debt and legal fights. For millions of Americans, though, the image stuck. He was the guy who always won. In 2015, Trump descended the golden escalator at Trump Tower and announced his run for president. Many thought it was a publicity stunt, but the populist message, anti-immigration, anti-elite, pro-America, struck a nerve with millions of disaffected voters across the country. He won in 2016, and served as the 45th president from 2017 to 2021. His term was marked by sweeping tax cuts, immigration crackdowns, trade wars, especially with China, and an unpredictable foreign policy. He appointed 3 Supreme Court justices, pulled out of global accords like the Paris Agreement, and rewrote the Republican Party in his own image. He was impeached twice, sparked global protests, and left office under the shadow of the January 6th Capitol riot. But to his base, he remained the ultimate fighter against the establishment, untouchable, unfiltered, and unapologetically Trump. Now in 2025, Donald Trump has returned to power after winning the 2024 election, making him only the second U.S. president to serve non-consecutive terms after Grover Cleveland. His victory, fueled by ongoing culture wars, economic grievances, and loyalty from the Republican base, stunned critics who believed his political brand had long since burned out. Now in his second act, Trump continues to spark legal battles, including cases related to election interference, classified documents, and financial fraud. Yet somehow, it only seems to deepen his supporters' resolve, fueling an even more energized movement. And then, in July 2024, during a campaign rally, Trump survived an attempted assassination, a moment that galvanized his base and turned him into an even more iconic figure to his followers. With security tighter, rhetoric sharper, and media attention at an all-time high, Trump's second term is anything but quiet. Trump's 5 children have all played roles in the family's ongoing legacy. Donald Jr. and Eric run the Trump Organization and appear regularly on conservative media as vocal defenders of their father. Ivanka served as a senior White House advisor, appearing at G20 summits and global forums. Though quieter now, she remains a brand unto herself. Tiffany keeps a lower profile, but recently announced she's expecting her first child. Barron, now a student at NYU, is reportedly advising on youth engagement for his father's administration. The Trump kids are part influencers, part power players. Some see future leaders, others just see lawsuits. So what is the Trump legacy? Is it a generational rise from immigrant grit to national dominance? Or a cautionary tale about ego, wealth, and unchecked ambition? Maybe it's a bit of both. But either way you look at it, the Trump name stands for something depending on who you ask. To some, strength, success, rebellion. To others, chaos, corruption, hubris. But one thing's for sure, the Trump family changed American history forever. We've only scratched the surface of a family saga that's equal parts impressive, outrageous, and uniquely American. Got a Trump fact we missed? Drop it in the comments, but keep it civil. And let us know. Who should we cover next? Maybe Trump's second vice president, Elon Musk? Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive right here on the Historical Codex.